ahead.
Yeah, right.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, call the meeting. Yeah, the meeting is April 1st. Call to order.
okay, I would like to say, one thing, no, three things, but the first thing is, guess what? Jane Ann Hodges was awarded the inaugural Outstanding Director Award in North Carolina. She was up at down at these meetings, the North Carolina Association of Directors of Elections, and they all gave her, what'd they give you? They a plaque or
A
something?
plaque.
A
Money.
plaque.
Yeah, and $100.
Why didn't you bring your plaque
For
with
me.
It's in the
That's good.
office.
That's good.
And then they gave me a big box of cookies.
Oh.
From,
And
pardon
this is,
me? I'm sorry. If I'd known I'd have brought them, I would have shared.
and this is what they said. Jane Ann Hodges has always been professional, ethical, and has worked hard to give voting citizens elections that were fair and honest for the past 29 years. For Jane Ann, this is not just a job, but a commitment to serve the citizens of Watauga County and the state of North Carolina. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
The other thing, maybe I just have this mixed up, but it seemed to me that it would be better to have the direct, we're gonna have the director appointment, and then we're gonna have discussion. So can we postpone the actual vote until the public has had a chance to speak on this matter, or how are you planning to do this?
Would you like to do that? I don't have a problem with that.
Well, yeah, so there's no point in us voting and then them being able to comment, so.
Okay, so you want to move public comment above director appointment?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we have to discuss the director appointment somehow
Well, but,
immediately thereafter.
well, yeah, so we'll do, after new registration statistics, we'll do public comment, then we'll do the director.
We just won't do any voting yet until we get finished with
Yeah, so we'll do public comment,
that. Right.
switch 4 and 5.
So I'll second. Is that a motion?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is the approval of March 12th minutes.
I just got them, so I don't know what they say.
I just think I feel like it.
That sounds okay to me, all right?
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. And I think we also need to vote on the closed session. I don't have a copy in my packet, but I have one with me.
Do we have a copy of the closed session in
If
here?
he will show you his comments.
I don't get my own copy.
We store them in a secure place. It's there.
That's where half of my stuff
All right,
is,
that's all.
in a secure place that I can never find them again.
Any discussion of those, Kathleen, need to be in a closed session.
I won't discuss it, I'm just
Okay.
trying to see, read it to see if I can. Well, that wasn't my reason, but I'm not going to get into it any further. Okay, whatever.
Okay. motion to accept the closed session minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the closed session minutes.
I'll second the minutes.
I abstain.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next agenda item is new registrations and statistics. So we have 65 new registrations. Is there a motion to accept those pending review?
Yes, I move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next agenda item will be public comment.
Well, no, that's not what I meant. I meant that we would discuss the director, but we wouldn't vote on that. We'd have public comment in between, discussing the director.
It's our decision to make that, so you either need public comment before to get, or you want it after. It's not an in-between
Well,
thing.
I don't want,
It's not a we discuss it and then that's not,
what I don't want is this, and you tell me how we can get that, all right? I want us not to vote on it until the public has had a chance to speak.
that's why I thought we moved it up above. That
But
way
then they won't know what we're doing, so how can they comment?
We moved it above, that's the way it goes. You don't do public comment in the middle of another agenda item.
Well, I think we could do,
It's not how it's done.
you know, this doesn't make any kind of sense, because, you know, we could just simply say, we'll just vote on it after we have their input. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to have input. If you want to have, if we have to do it one way or the other, let's have the input first, but, you know, I don't know what good that's gonna do.
Okay, we'll do public comment before this agenda item.
All right. Does anyone in the public want to comment?
Hey.
Does she have to sign that thing?
No.
Yeah, we'd like it.
You have
Yeah,
someone-
that's,
What's that?
okay.
Well, you can come up and sign it.
Do we want to take a recess of 15 minutes to let people sign?
I think we got
I don't think
two.
we need 15 minutes. How many minutes do we need?
Yeah, we
People
can
who
sign.
want to come up, just sign it, okay?
If I can ask all the board members to speak louder, they're having a problem hearing you in the back.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I don't know, is this working?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to hold my mouth right down on it. I'll try.
It's ringing.
Is that you beeping, Jane? TV?
It must be coming from that.
What's not?
There you go. Did you get
My name is Deborah Green, and for fair disclosure, I've applied for the job as Director of Elections for Watauga County. But I have not been interviewed by anyone other than Ms. Campbell. Bill Aceto called me. He said he had some questions about my resume. I returned that phone call, despite the fact that I was called while he was driving his car, which I thought Bill was highly unprofessional. And I also emailed you to your WhatGov account. That would be the normal account that I would think anyone would communicate with. However, you've indicated you don't check that account, and I should have used your personal email. But you said you also knew me from working in the Republican Party, as well as you had read my resume. You thought that I was well qualified for the job, but I didn't have the qualifications that you were looking for, that I didn't meet your short list. I wish that you had given me the opportunity by having an interview. And I would have rather have found out about this after discussion instead of before discussion. Thank you.
Next is Bobby Bird.
Yes,
Just-
I'm
just-
Bobby
just a
Bird.
second, just a second, Ms. Bird, wait till Jane has the timer set.
Good.
Okay, you're good.
I'm Bobby Bird, and I'd like to speak on behalf of Matthew Snyder. I've had the privilege of working with Matthew Snyder several years, and I've also in the past worked in the Board of Elections. And I know that Matt is highly qualified. He'll be very fair and honest. He's good with numbers and statistics, and he's prompt, and he's very qualified. Thank you.
Okay, next is Ian O'Keefe.
Hey y'all. So,
Just a second.
oh, sorry, I won't be long. My only request is that when you are looking to hire someone for this job, that you will, two things. A, that you will pick somebody who is nonpartisan, who has not been involved in partisan activity on either side of the aisle or any side of the aisle for a job that is supposed to be a nonpartisan position. People who have, for instance, held positions within the Democratic or Republican Party probably shouldn't be considered for this to fill that requirement. And then secondly, I just ask that you look for someone who has experience working in elections. There are people around this state and even farther around this nation who do have experience in working elections. I think that we've seen great people in that office. Jane Ann is a perfect example of that, and I would just ask you to look for someone who has at least some experience working in Board of Elections offices or is in any way qualified to be a Board of Elections director or work in their office. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, the next agenda item is director appointment. I would like to go ahead and make a motion to appoint Matt Snyder as director. Is there a second
I'll second.
discussion?
Yes, I have a lot of discussion. The first thing I want to say is, there was some evidence here from our last discussion, but I didn't have it down, that we are not doing this search the way it's normally done. I have here Orange County Board of Elections invites applications for elections director. This was in 2007, and this is for Forsyth County in 2014. Director of Elections, external. Both of these things are standard methods of having a search. I wanted to hand these to you because I know you don't care, but I want you to realize that they have, in fact, this one even says it is an equal opportunity affirmative action employer. They have a system, they've got a place for you to send your applications that's neutral, and we are doing it in the most partisan way, which really is not how it's supposed to be done, or has it traditionally been done this way. Okay, I'm gonna pass these over to you guys, so you can see them. And I will save some of these out, because at the end of this meeting, I would like to make a statement and have a press conference, if you don't mind. Okay, you got one?
I like it. Drop it, please.
All right, so, now, I'll go ahead. It appears that Mr. Aceto and Mr. Eggers are still wanting to appoint a highly partisan person with no experience, in spite of knowing that he's not qualified. I was thinking this was just because of April Fool's Day, but no such luck. In spite of this, I just want to tell everyone that I appreciate, everyone who applied, I want to tell you that I appreciate the resumes that came in and the effort that you have put into them. I have looked over them all, and I called everyone who sent me an application and determined if they were still interested. I had only one person remove his name from consideration. I have also interviewed Mr. Snyder. I've now narrowed my choices down to 2, based on the resumes and my interviews with the candidates. I personally am looking for a person who has as much experience with running elections or understanding election law or election procedures and/or election machinery and any of those complex and vital skills that are needed to run the election office. I'm also hoping to appoint a nonpartisan person whom the people of Watauga can trust and who is as qualified for this job as possible. Have either of you, Luke, have you ever interviewed any of these applicants?
No.
Because when I spoke to Matt Snyder on Friday, he said that he had talked to Bill, but he had never spoken to you other than to send you his resume, and you never contacted him.
That's not true.
That's what he
I-
said.
I put his name out there. Why would I need to call him back?
I think that there's more to doing this job than just, having a chat over a coffee. You're supposed to be doing a search, and you're supposed to be trying to find the best person. And not just somebody, well, you got it, you gave him the idea, so, he should just know that you know. I mean, that's very unprofessional. So I won't go there. I know that Bill did go to see him because he said that he did, and I appreciate that, Bill. Anyway, my opinion, after I looked at everybody, anyway, in my opinion, there are 2 candidates that I consider to be the most qualified. And the reason I find them most qualified is not because they're the most qualified people ever, but because they are more qualified for this job. The Board of Elections duties, since we didn't do a search, we don't have a lot of people that have got a lot of hands-on experience, but we do have a couple of people, and one of them is Nancy Henry, and the other I thought was Deborah Green. I'm going to start with Nancy Henry because both of these people have agreed to publish their resumes, and they have no objection to my speaking about this. And so I will start with Nancy Henry. These are not their resumes, these are the notes from my conversations with them, and they have agreed to make this information public. Nancy Henry has been in Watauga and Ashe County for 11 years, and she has worked in elections for 8 of those years as a precinct officer. She ran in the primary for county commission in Ashe County in the election before last. When she lived in California, she had a precinct in her house in a rural area in Riverside County near Orange County for 4 elections. People voted there. She had the voting machines, and she had to keep them operational and run the polling site during the election. She is board certified as a realtor and operates her own business, Henry Realty. Prior to that, she was a broker in charge at Henry Weathers Brokers Incorporated in Banner Elk from 2003 to 2008. In California, she ran a business called Tri-County Real Estate from 1996 to 2000. She has knowledge of electoral procedures and technical expertise in computer software and digital methods of communication. She is currently working as an appraiser for houses in foreclosure for the county and banks in both Ashe and Watauga County. She has thus met many citizens in the county as well as those in the real estate business and related fields. I asked her, how do you think your skills would apply to the job of executive director? She says, she feels as though she has applied for the ideal job for her. She likes getting the vote out and getting people involved and caring about our community and state. She says she has participated in many efforts to get out the vote and always registered voters of any political persuasion. She said she was outgoing and she thought she was a motivational person. She also said she was very organized. She said she's always been in business for herself, and if you're not organized, you don't make money. She said she had spent 35 years in business. She owned at various times 7 real estate companies and worked in others. She was on the California State Board of Directors for real estate, and in that capacity they made laws and regulations for the real estate business in California. She knows how to read tax records and has organized and conducted classes in education for realtors in North Carolina, as well as tax records and other unrelated courses. She said she has had a lot of experience dealing with people in general, but also with businesses, particularly banks. She said she had experience dealing with legal and financial conflicts, tax. She said she is kind, direct, and forthcoming and doesn't get angry in communications with others. Other professional skills would be mastery of various kinds of software, including Microsoft Word, spreadsheet, Photoshop, MLS, data entry, real estate appraiser updates and courses. Okay, that was Nancy Henry. She lives in Ashe County, but she works in both Watauga and Ashe. This is Deborah Green. Her election experience. She served as a precinct judge at ASU campus for 2 elections. Precinct judges have to set up the voting machines and troubleshoot and report difficulties to the chair and/or the executive director of the Board of Election or a board member. She needed to make sure that the voters' issues were resolved, for instance, if they were in the wrong precinct. She has personally distributed voter registration forms. She was also treasurer of the Watauga County Republican Women's Club and has consulted with Jane Ann Hodges with regard to campaign finance and advertising rules. In 2012, she ran for the Watauga County School Board. She had to be her own treasurer and follow all election laws as a candidate. In addition, she has a great knowledge of local issues and has been a strong advocate and activist for political action committees and candidates. Her skills. She currently owns a pension consulting business. She sets up pension plans for other companies. She also administers those plans and makes sure they are in compliance with all federal and state laws. Some of her clients are Goodnight Brothers, the Archdiocese of Miami, doctors, lawyers, as well as manufacturing companies such as Broward, Maine, etc. She also worked from 1980 to 1991 at Deloitte & Touche in Miami, where she managed a staff of tax professionals. There were 4 employees in her charge. She had to sign off on every audit of all retirement plans the company managed so that they would comply with the law. If not in compliance, assets become taxable at 40%, so it's very important to be accurate. She's had, over the course of her career, become a specialist in understanding financial instruments and accounting software. She has more than 35 years of experience in preparing and monitoring budgets, preparing financial statements, as well as training staff and auditors. She has also had to learn all the laws in her field in order to run her own business. She has also had to deal with personnel and to resolve issues with clients. She has over 20 years of experience in managing a business or departments and employees within a business. She's prepared budgets and financial statements and had to interpret both federal and state laws. Okay, those are the 2 that I would recommend. Now, I talked to Mr. Snyder. We met last week, and he knew that I was taking notes, and he had no objection to it. So I would just like to, I thought that Mr. Snyder was a very nice man. And his background was very interesting to me because I'm an artist photographer and he is a filmmaker. I know, however, that my skills do not translate to running the Board of Elections, and I'm afraid his don't either. He really has no relevant experience for this job. His expertise is in freelance film production and currently in sales and marketing of digital websites. He has taken part in only 1 election ever, and that was in Watauga County in November 2010, where he worked as an assistant precinct worker. Although he worked in this election in 2010, he said on his resume that he was living in New York City at that time. In our conversation, however, he changed his statement about his residence in New York being for the entire 15-year period and said he also spent time in California, Seattle, and North Carolina. During that whole period where he said he was living in New York, 1996 to 2011, beginning in 2001, he registered and voted here in Watauga County, except for the 2008 election. He renewed his registration in 2009 and continued to vote here in Watauga County using his family's address. It does make me wonder, since the Republicans don't want students to vote because they don't live here, how he has squared that with his own behavior. In any case, I asked him if he felt that his background and skills were sufficient to run the Board of Elections office. And he told me that he had gained a lot of knowledge of how the Board of Elections worked when he was chair of the Watauga County Republican Party from 2011 to 2013. He said he had worked with Jane Ann as well as with candidates for election on such things as financial compliance with federal and state laws. It is interesting that he says this, because it has come to my attention that the Republican Party from 2009 to the present has been getting fined by the State Board of Elections for continually filing late. There are apparently other irregularities in compliance, such as not explaining the purpose of the transactions, accepting cash donations of over $50, and reimbursing the officers for various amounts of money without any explanation as to why, including $500 in 2011 for Mr. Snyder. This is the time period during which Mr. Snyder was the chair, and it puts a different light on his statement that he was advising candidates on compliance with election laws. Of course, Mr. Snyder was not the treasurer, but as the chair, he was in charge of oversight, and he claims his expertise in financial compliance to be his strong point.
Kathleen,
Yes.
can I stop you right there? You were at the same training I was this August, where you and I both know that that should be the treasurer's job, so I think it's not right for you to try to lump that on Mr. Snyder.
Well, I'm finished with that part. Okay, in addition to having no real qualifications for this position, Mr. Snyder is highly partisan, as can be evidenced most recently at the March 4th, 2014 meeting, where he literally and angrily confronted citizens about their desires to have an early voting location on the ASU campus. The people of Watauga will have no confidence in his ability to administer the board fairly if he does things like this. I also just want to review what has happened here. My fellow board members have refused repeatedly to go forward with a search for the best qualified person for this job. They refused in spite of the fact that this search would have cost nothing. They never advertised the position on the county's website. Why would someone do this? There's only one reason, because they already had chosen the person they wanted behind the scenes, and were not interested in who might actually be nonpartisan and qualified for the position. That's why Mr. Eggers put forward just one name, and Mr. Acito never put forward any at all. Once another 9 people found out through the grapevine that there was a job opening, they applied for the position. Mr. Eggers has never interviewed any of these people, even Mr. Snyder. And, but in spite of never speaking to Mr. Snyder, Luke had already made up his mind to vote for him at our last meeting, according to his own words. I cannot understand how that constitutes competence. We as board directors have work to do, and for the chair of our board to not even interview his own candidate for such an important and integral job is unbelievable to me. So how on earth can he make any kind of competent decision here tonight? Mr. Acito has called a few people I have heard, but didn't return some of those calls. I know this because people were asking me if he was going to call them back. He may have interviewed Mr. Snyder. Mr. Snyder says that he did. However, that is really subterfuge. I believe the fix was in from the beginning. My fellow board members have been determined to act in a highly partisan way, treat citizens and staff with disrespect, and ignore any opinions, but the ones they have been told to have by the people who are not on our board. They've been doing this for 2 years, and now they want to appoint a highly partisan individual, the former chair of the Republican Party, because they want to turn our local board of elections into an arm of their political party. This is a shame and it's inexcusable. The only hope for the voters of Watauga County is that the Director of State Board of Elections will step up to the plate and refuse to allow this appointment.
I'd like to say a few words. Everybody hear me okay? Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody that did apply either formally or informally for the position. I've spoken to several people that are not on the list and that prefer their name not to be shared due to current employment. In reference to Mrs. Green, I did reach out to you. We did play phone tag. We did not communicate to each other through voicemail nor through email. There were several items that stood out to me about your resume and highly influential activism in our local government. You know, to me, there's no place for that in this director position, so I felt like that was. Yeah, excuse me. We were very respectful, and Kathleen had her prepared a
Hey,
statement.
I would just like to say that this is a public meeting and we do need a quorum in this. Let Mr. Aceto finish, thank you.
And that doesn't bother me, that activism. What really bothers me is that this is someone that applied, that tried to remove myself and Mr. Eggers from this board. And why would we consider someone for this position that wanted to remove us from our position? So that's my reasoning behind it. And I did speak to Nancy Henry as well. I know Nancy personally as being a realtor in the area. Yeah, I did, one thing that's really, I guess, the main reason for Nancy, her timeline to me was not adequate for the director position. She wanted a short timeline. She said probably within a couple of years she would be retiring. And to me, I'd like to have someone in this position for years to come, not just a handful or use this as a stepping stone. Not saying Nancy would use a stepping stone, but in general, I want a director that's going to be there for years to come. I did put a lot of thought into this process. I've reached out to multiple other candidates, not just ones I mentioned. And this job was very well publicized, in my opinion. The local media, several are here tonight, has been, you know, people know about the Board of Elections. We're a very loud board based on activism in our local community. So people are aware of this job and they've applied based on news articles, word of mouth. We're in a small town. Okay, the three skills to me that really stood out for director, technology skills was probably number one on my list. I think we're in a changing environment. The elections are going digitally. I think that's very important to possess database management and able to work on the computers, the election machines. So all that I took very highly, and I do think Mr. Snyder excels in that. He's not just in sales at AppNet from my discussion with him, he's also, he's a computer geek. He's very good at what he does. Number two, I mentioned this earlier about Nancy Henry, but desire to be in a position for years to come and not use this job as a stepping stone. That was important to me. Matt Snyder, and in my meeting with him, I had lunch with Matt Snyder. He said he would look to this position, for 15, 20 years, and that was important to me. And one of the reasons why I feel like he's very well qualified for this position. The ability to communicate and well organized. Matt Snyder, I worked with him. I was the treasurer of Republican Party, so maybe that's some of the reasoning there. Getting fined, Kathleen, it might have been me, but
Yes, it was you. I
Yeah.
didn't say it, but
Yeah.
yes, you got fined,
Yeah.
and so did everybody in the present day.
so that's another discussion. But anyway, so he was very effective in managing and dealing with personalities within the Republican Party. I think that he's going to help him in this next position as director. You can deal with, there's always going to be differences, no matter what party you're in or what organization you're involved in, and Matt handled those very well. That's going to prepare him for this next step. So I think that's been important, and that's lessons that he's learned that he'll use those skills in the director position. So I think the citizens of Watauga County are the ones that are winning the day with Matt Snyder as a director, and Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call the question.
I'd like to make one comment. I have full faith in Mr. Snyder to carry out the duties of the elections director for Watauga County, and he will carry out the laws of the state of North Carolina by the book, and will serve all people of Watauga County with the utmost professionalism. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion carries 2-1. Next item is adjournment. All in favor? Is there
Aye.
a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is Matt Snyder gonna yell at people when they disagree with him like he has at the public hearing?
Y'all realize you never actually voted on the motion.
Just the question.
You never,
Don't worry, they're all qualified. That's true.
No, they can't do that. No, they can't do that.
Okay, I just wanted to give you, anybody who wants this, these are the, this is, you have it already, I think, right? Oh, Orange County, take one. Are you a?
Yeah, I'm with WHCA. WHCA.
That's great. Here, let me have this.
Copies of your stuff.
Yes, I have copies of your statement. I don't have tons of them because I was like trying to do it the last one. So, I'm sorry, I see you, but.
They never voted on it.